Before I even get into what your girl Azealia Banks had to say about abortion, I just wanted to say this, if you don't know already, Planned Parenthood, which has, I don't even know how many abortion clinics in America at this point, but it's a lot of them across America. The founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, said many years ago that she wanted to eradicate the so-called Negro population via abortion and birth control. And she said that the most effective way to put it in front of our eyes was via the Christian church, because the pastor is the best way to promote this poison. And yes, abortion is infanticide, and yes, it's wrong. And I know that most people don't have very many morals nowadays, but that's beyond the point of this particular discussion. I just had to say that before I read to you what Azealia Banks said about abortion. Now, for the record, I could just put it on the screen and let you read it for yourself, but a lot of you are like Fantasia and your ass can't read. So female rapper Azealia Banks discussed abortion on Twitter recently, and I'm going to have to call bullshit. Now, you guys should know by now I'm half of a fan of Azealia Banks. She is a pretty girl. She does say some very intelligent things sometimes. Then she says stupid shit like this. She said, and I quote, "I'm totally pro-choice, but I think there needs to be limit to how many voluntary abortions a woman can get. Cause some chicks be wilding. I think 3 in a lifetime, and that's it. You can't make abortion illegal in the United States cause that will just start a whole black market for it, including, quote, abortion tourism." Here we go with this bullshit again. Anyway, she went on to say people will be leaving babies in dumpsters if abortion becomes illegal. What happens to the aborted embryos and fetuses? Can a woman opt to donate to stem cell research? End quote. Okay, Azealia, with your halfway ignorant ass, your pseudo-smart, pseudo-intelligent self, quasi-intelligent rapper / part-time pseudo-activist, pseudo-feminist, and just, oh my God. Let me tell you guys something. As far as this whole abortion thing is concerned, matter of fact, let me go back to what she said first of all. She said that if abortion was illegal in the United States, it would cause a whole black market for it, including a quote-unquote abortion tourism, and that people will be leaving babies in dumpsters. Here's the deal. People leave babies in dumpsters now. With all of this access to abortion and birth control, adoption, everything else, people still do that. And why do people who are pro-choice pretend that they're so concerned with babies? When you support abortion in the first place, they're like, that baby starving to death in that fucking dumpster. Oh, that's so sad. That baby being killed by that vacuum, poisoned, killed by being cut up in the womb, being punched in the face by the doctor, choked. Yes. These doctors birth these children. They choke them. They strangle them. They beat them to death. This is literally the type of shit that they're doing. I'm not saying it happens all of the time. I'm just saying that there are times where they are doing this. They're torturing these babies to death. Also, partial birth abortion. They call it partial birth because they pull the baby by the legs all the way out except for the head. Because if you pull the baby all the way out of the womb, it will be considered to be a person and not a so-called fetus. So they pull everything out except for the head. Then they take a pair of scissors, they stick it in the back of the neck, and then stick a tube inside the head and suck the fucking brain out. Called partial birth abortion. Yes, they actually do this. And yes, it is legal in the United States to perform one by a licensed abortionist. She goes on to say, what happens to the aborted embryos and fetuses? Can a woman opt to donate to stem cell research? Well, what do you think happens to them? I've heard stories about these babies being put into cosmetics. I've also heard stories about people making soup, fetus soup, in other countries with the children. They do all sorts of things with them. They're treated as property and not people. That's why it always makes me cringe whenever I hear pseudo-feminists talking about how women are treated as property. No, babies are treated as property. Women are treated, if anything, with the utmost respect. And a lot of people are getting upset about the fact that men and children are treated like shit. It's like they say women and children first. In other words, not children and women first, but women, then children, because that's literally what people mean. People think in America that women are more important than children. I don't want to get too much into that in this video. I'll say that for another topic, rather another video, because that's a separate topic, but it ties into this whole abortion fiasco. But it amazes me the stupidity in this woman's comments, because a lot of times Azealia Banks, see, this is the thing, Azealia Banks is not a stupid person. A lot of shit she says, she just does to get your attention, to get your goat, to get you to pay attention. So then that way she can profit off of people looking at her and reading what she says and whatnot. She's nowhere near a stupid person. She knows exactly what she's doing. In this particular situation, she really needs to learn the truth. And I've been planning on doing some videos about abortion. I really think I'm going to have to talk about the subject and basically drop some startling information on people, but I'm going to have to make them separate videos because I don't want to confuse people, have people's heads spinning like, what? Like, you can't be telling the truth. And then when you go do the research for yourself after I make the fucking videos, you're going to be like, holy shit, this dude is dead ass serious and he's correct. But basically, back in the day, there were these stories, these mythological stories about something called back alley abortions. And there used to be this whole coat hanger thing. They would say, well, see, abortion has to be legal because what women will do is they will go get a baby aborted by a coat hanger in a back alley. That's what this fake story that was floating around was back in the day. And there were all of these back alley abortion statistics. Of course, the statistics were fake. They were made up. There weren't women by the droves going into back alleys and getting a hanger stuck into them because people didn't have access to medical equipment. A lot of the illegal abortions that were performed back then were performed by physicians in offices, hospitals, or whatever, what have you, on equipment. It's just that it was against the law for them to do it. However, they were actually using medical grade equipment. It wasn't like they were in a back alley using a hanger like the stories claim. But I'm going to have to make a separate video about that and explain it more in detail. The whole point is a lot of what she said was bullshit. It was really ignorant. But I mean, she's one of those people who's halfway informed. And the thing about being informed is that you have to understand something. Everybody can't talk about every different subject. There's a lot of shit I don't talk about. Like, if you notice, you might say, well, how come you don't really talk about sports? Because I don't give a fuck about sports. If you assholes want to play with your balls for millions of dollars, then that's fine. You know, that's up to you. But there's a lot of subjects like sports, which I think is stupid as fuck, that I don't really talk about because I don't know about it. I don't give a fuck about it. So I talk about what I know about. And, you know, the thing about opinions is that if you have an opinion about a subject, it should be fact-based. Your opinion should be based off of the fact that you study the subject at least to some degree so that you have at least a basic a rudimentary understanding of that particular topic. And I can tell by what she said, she knows absolutely nothing about the topic that she's speaking about. She's only speaking off emotion and what she wants to believe about the subject. But that's why I'm going to talk about it from a fact-based position very soon. Stay tuned for it because it's going to be epic and it's going to be one of those things you're going to want to hear. I'm going to actually make a playlist about it. It's going to be titled something like Meat Magazine Discusses Abortion or something like that. Anyways, let me know what you think about it all below. Be sure to subscribe to the Meat Magazine YouTube channels and visit meatmagazine.blogspot.com for more. I just think it's funny that somebody would say that they think that 3 is how many you should have, because how can you be for something but then put a limitation on it? I mean, you would think that something was wrong with it for somebody to put a limitation on it. You would think that that's something that somebody should not be doing. Otherwise, why would it be limited? But anyways, this is all my opinion. Let me know what you think about it below. Meat Magazine.